Saeed Abdel Hady, former Dean of Mansoura Faculty of Medicine. Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us on this show, Nile TV International. So, Doctor, let's shed light on this event and healthcare, Africa Health Excon, and why has it become such an important event for the African continent?
Really, it has become one of the mega events in health of Africa every year for so many years, and the importance increases year by year because of the merge between science, the need for pharmaceutical industries, the need for health supply, and the need for vaccination, and also the Centers for Disease Control, which affect Africa in particular, like Ebola and other things. So it is a valuable gathering of health policies, experts in industry, especially drug industry, medical supplies, and of course Egypt has gained experience over the years both in holding such mega events and on also being a gate for all African nations in this field. So if you take health policy in particular, Egypt has very well-known policymakers who can transmit their experience for the African continent. If you take drug manufacturing, Egypt and the Egyptian Drug Authority has a very good record in producing drugs for most of the continent and at reasonable price as well. If you take medical supplies, we are advancing also in this field. And lastly, regarding the infectious diseases like Ebola and vaccination, Egypt also has been actively participating in this field. So Egypt has a lot to give to Africa, and Africa as well has a lot to benefit from Egypt, and that's our role as a leading country in this part of the world.
So, Doctor, as you mentioned, drug industry in Egypt, the chairman of the Egyptian Drug Authority outlined an ambitious strategy through 2030, focusing on localization, boosting exports, and digital traceability. Where does the Egyptian pharmaceutical industry stand today in terms of self-sufficiency, and what are the most or the biggest obstacles facing or preventing us from reaching the 2030 vision?
Oh, this is very important. On both the realistic and expecting policies for the drug manufacturing in Egypt. The good thing is in Egypt we cover more than 95 to 96% of our domestic need for drugs. We are just exporting or importing a very little amount of drugs, in particular the anti-cancer drug, and even that we are working in it. On the other hand, Africa imports the majority of its need for drugs from Europe, India, and many other countries. And Egyptian drug manufacturing, or the Egyptian Drug Authority, guaranteed the good quality of our products and the reasonable price as well. So it's a win-win game. And of course, the procurement or the mega procurement, if you have an offer for a huge need for a country like Nigeria or Ethiopia or South Africa, Egypt can play a significant role, and as I said, it is a win-win game. The drugs are very valuable, the drugs are very efficient, and the price are also tolerable for the African continent.
Doctor, the focus this year in the conference is on the concept of health sovereignty. What does it mean, this term, particularly health sovereignty, and its importance to the African continent?
Yeah, indeed, I like this term because sovereignty means you control yourself. And Africa needs to control its needs, to control its manufacturing, and to control its health. And Egypt has long-standing experience in this field. In fields like vaccination, Egypt's record in the vaccination for children and infectious diseases is outstanding. So Africa is quite in need for that one. As I said before, the drug pharmacies, the health appliances, and the instrumentation and the equipment. So Egypt can offer something to make Africa sovereign or control of its need for a very significant item, that's the health of the African people.
Doctor, the importance of regional cooperation in this field, in particular in healthcare, why is becoming more and more important in this phase?
Yeah, absolutely. We have been looking here and there, and every time we move to conferences outside, they say, why are leaving Africa behind? So Egypt really has a strategic goal to build bilateral relations as well as regional and continental relations. And this relation is in benefit for each African indeed. I mean, we had signed a treaty with Algeria. Algeria is a very major country that needs the drug, the Egyptian drug and the Egyptian products. Also, Libya, as I said, all the other Arab African nations, Tunisia and Morocco, by the way, they are present in the conference and they have very good scientists participating. So in the Arab, and Sudan, of course, Sudan is another major country, very significant for Egypt, and supplies medications and supplies that makes it sovereign or in control of its need, would save money and save effort and make drugs available. So also in the Eastern African region and up to the whole continent, the Egyptian drug, and by the way, the Egyptian doctor as well, can make a difference for the health and sovereignty or control of all African nations.
You mentioned some countries, Doctor. What about Algeria? A specific memorandum of understanding.
Yeah.
Yes, was signed with Algeria's National Agency for Pharmaceutical Products. Why Algeria in particular, the significance of this cooperation?
The significance of Algeria is a very vast country. We have very strong political relations. Algeria historically is a very important country, even politically, and also Algeria has petrol and petrochemical industry, so we can make things better by our collaboration with the Algerian side, and perhaps is one of the very significant countries in the northern of Africa.
In your opinion, Doctor, could Egypt become a regional hub for healthcare innovation and medical industries?
No doubt that Egypt has all the capabilities and the potentialities to become hub, not only for North Africa, but for the whole continent. And this is not an overestimation, it is a very realistic. Egypt's experience and expertise in the field, in all fields that, as we mentioned, is very well known, and it is a chance to play a win-win game with all African continents. As I said, this is not only a health issue, it is a political issue, and also it is benefit of the Africans. And one final say, Egypt and especially Egyptian physicians and technicians are very well respected in all African nations. Everywhere we meet African people and we say we are optimistic that Egypt will take Africa and will lift our needs up.
So how can the African countries benefit from the Egyptian experience, and to what extent is it possible to transfer technology and know-how to African countries?
Yeah, such that mega conferences, when we are sitting with our Algerian colleagues, Moroccan delegates or colleagues, these are the policymakers. They are the policymakers in their countries. And when they come to Egypt to see is a very big conference and exhibition, they need this in their country. They know that now Egypt has this facility. Egypt has the will. So I think we have a will, and the African nations have a will. And if there is a will, there is a way. Of course, there are limitations, there are barriers. Some of these are political, but Egyptian role is to make it easy, to go there, show the solidarity with these people, show support, show technical support, show policy makers, collaboration with policymakers in these countries. They have also very good experts who love Egypt and love to participate with the Egyptian. And from my experience, Egypt is ready and is capable of lifting up the health status in all African nations.
So, Doctor, this is a huge hub and a huge event in Egypt. So, with over 400 companies attending this conference, so how can we make use of this and what incentives can be provided to companies or African and international companies to attract them for more and more investment and cooperation with Egypt?
Yeah, indeed, this is one of the largest exhibitions I have ever seen, really. Over 400 exhibitors who came from all over the world. And such mega events tell people that the facility is there, the quality is there, and also makes it available to discuss and negotiate and meet further time. And from this conference, I think, they take months to plan for it, but also after the event, they should take months in preparing, visiting, and going outside or abroad to visit every country and show that you are capable. But it's a very great event that should be used to the best of Egypt and to the best of African nations.
So, Doctor, what's different in this year's edition of the conference?
I have been for this conference and exhibition for the last 5 or 6 years, and each year it's getting bigger. It is getting more organized, and I thank the organizers for the Ministry of Health in Egypt and also our ex-Minister of Health, Professor Hady, and his team who take months and months in planning, and the implementation comes very successful. So whenever you go for this event, you feel that Egypt is serious and Egypt will deliver.
How can we translate the outcomes and results of this gathering, huge gathering? How can we translate this into tangible results on the ground?
Yeah, of course, as I said, the conference itself is very well organized, but the work needs to continue. In each session, we get at the end of the session what's called the conclusions or the opinions of the participants who are usually the experts from the whole continent. And we need to work on that one. So the organizers, the Ministry of Health, need to get a group committed to this work, not only for planning for the next year's conference, but also working on the recommendations, facilitation, and making the mobility of the Egyptian drug and industry accessible and visible for all African nations.
So, Doctor, the whole world is facing the threat of the outbreaks of different disease, and so
Ebola,
like Ebola. Africa CDC Director General Jan Cassia explicitly warned about this and about the ongoing threat of Ebola and other outbreaks like Mpox. So, how does hosting the APPM headquarters in Cairo enhance the continent's early detection and rapid response capabilities to these recurring health emergencies?
Oh yeah, of course. Ebola is a threat in certain parts of Western Africa, especially in Congo. And we know a lot of things about this deadly disease. Unfortunately, there is no vaccine yet, but the health education and health promotion and awareness and the preventive strategies could work. There is a need to also get the international organization like the WHO, World Health Organization, with us, because the experts all over the world, once an outbreak happens, we all remember what happened with the virus before the pandemic. And Ebola is a bit different because the transmission is not by the respiratory, it is more by the direct contact. It has a policy to prevent its spread, and I think in this session that was discussed was clear ambition to halt in or to prevent the spread to a wider international perspective.
So how can we learn from the experience of COVID-19, the lessons learned, and how can we use this to avoid the shortage in medical supplies as happened before?
Yeah, really, you just touched a very significant experience just a few years back about the COVID-19, because that was a respiratory disease transmitted by droplets. And Ebola is different because each disease has its cause, although it is virus, but that comes in direct contact, especially with certain types of animals. So although the spectrum and the comparison is different, but it remains that the health policy and health prevention could be applied according to the rules of self-containment, prevention of outbreaks, getting isolation of the infected, and finally finding the drugs that treat. Unfortunately, we don't have, but the research is very active in this field. Experience from COVID you just touched is very valuable because we remember that Egypt was one of the most successful campaigns combating the COVID-19. Vaccination came in very rapidly, and our record was quite high up in covering of the whole population or majority of the population, but in some African countries it was only less than 10%. So Egypt has a very robust or very strong healthcare system, especially in the preventive medicine or in the prophylactic medicine that could transmit these experiences in Africa.
While Egypt is seeking to expand its food in Africa and achieving African self-reliance, there's also notable presence for the Serbian Prime Minister in this exhibition and conference. So the significance of this presence and the importance of cooperation between Egypt and other non-African partners.
Absolutely. The Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, has addressed the conference, and his speech was very strong and very balanced. I congratulate him for that. And every year, the president himself was very keen to attend because Africa is so valuable for us. This time, the president is in France, so the prime minister addressed the Congress. I mean that when the will comes from the highest authority, either by the president or the prime minister, this gives an indication that Egypt is serious about that. As we used to say, if there is a will, there is a way. All the barriers could be sorted out. Egyptian relationship, foreign and economic ties with all African is very well known. And also the foreign policy of Egypt makes life easy. We don't have conflict with any other country. I will tell you something, even with Ethiopia. Egyptian doctors are very active in Ethiopia, and we have running relationship with Ethiopia, despite the dispute about the dam and all this kind of thing. But I just would say we don't have conflict with any African nation right now. And the Egyptian physicians, the Egyptian companies, the Egyptian drug is available for each African nation.
There were discussions, Doctor, about the use of artificial intelligence and in healthcare. So how can we benefit from using artificial intelligence and digital transformation in the healthcare system?
Yeah, this is perhaps the number one topic discussed in the conference this year and perhaps also last year. So artificial intelligence means that the big data, data analysis, projection curves or expectations for disease spread and all this kind of thing, and also it makes the manufacturing and the research available. So if you are planning for more than 52 countries with a number of over 500 million or maybe a billion population living in Africa, so you will get huge data. All these huge data are dealt with by mega computers, by, of course, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence means the ability to expect things out of the big data. And in this year's conference, most of the sessions were speaking about or discussing the value of implementation of artificial intelligence, big data, deep machine learning, expectations and projections. All these are very valuable parameters in the future medical care.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saeed Abdel Hady, former Dean of Mansoura Faculty of Medicine, for your valuable information and insight. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll go for a short break and we'll be right back.